I'm Lily Anderson, 31. I never imagined a simple conversation about groceries and budgeting could fracture everything I thought I knew about us. For 4 years, Stephen and I had built a life that felt comfortable, familiar. He had his routines, I had mine, and for the last two, we shared my apartment. It wasn't perfect, but it felt like a partnership. Stephen's hands were scrolling, his eyes half focused on the screen. I cleared my throat. Hey, I noticed this month's grocery bills were higher than usual. Maybe we can scale back a bit or chip in a little extra? He didn't look up. Why are you always nickel and diming me? It's just food. It's not about nickel and diming, I said, trying to keep my voice calm. It's about planning together. For us. For our future. We're a team, right? That's when he finally looked up, and I saw it. His face cold, almost disgusted. Lily, stop acting like we're married. We're just dating. I froze. Those words landed on me like ice water. 2 years of living together. Shared routines. Keys. Netflix accounts. The apartment. And suddenly, none of it mattered. For a moment, I didn't react. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I simply inhaled, letting the clarity wash over me. He wasn't joking. He meant it. I had been living as if we were married, invested, caring, planning a shared future, while he was merely dating. A strange, precise calm settled over me. If he wanted just dating, then I would give him exactly that. I smiled, small, tight, and deliberate. You're right, I said. He blinked. What? I've been overstepping, I said softly, assuming things about our relationship that aren't accurate. My mistake. Thank you for clarifying. Confusion flickered across his face. Okay, so can we drop the budget thing? Consider it dropped. I set down my mug, lifted the pillow and comforter from my bed, and carried them toward the spare room. What are you doing? I'm going to sleep in the spare room, I said. We're just dating, right? Sharing a bed every night feels a little married. Don't want to suffocate you. Good night. I left him standing there, mouth open. That night, I slept poorly, heart racing. Yet beneath the unease, there was a strange satisfaction, a sense of reclaiming control. Morning came, sunlight spilling across the kitchen floor. Stephen was making coffee. I walked over, holding out my apartment key. Hey, I said quietly. He frowned. What's this? I'll need this back, I said. I'm not comfortable giving 24/7 access anymore. Boundaries. He looked shocked, anger flickering in his eyes. This is insane. I live here. You wanted boundaries, I said softly. I'm respecting them. I retrieved a printed 30-day notice from my bag. And while we're resetting, I think it's best to formalize our living situation. This is your notice to vacate in 30 days. That way, we can truly be just dating. His face twisted in rage. You're kicking me out? Over one comment? Yes, I said firmly, voice steady. And don't worry, we can still date. I can pick you up, drop you off, coffee, dinner, like casual dates, nothing else. You're a psycho, he shouted, grabbing his keys and storming toward the door. Slam. A picture frame crashed to the floor behind him. I stood in the silence, heart pounding. Hollow, sad, but also free. The fog of assumption lifted. He wanted just dating. Fine, that's what he'd get. I sat back on the sofa, staring at the empty hallway, and thought about what would come next. The quiet dread of move-out day loomed, but beneath it all was a strange thrill, the beginning of a new chapter, one written by my rules. For the first time in years, the apartment felt like mine again. 2 weeks passed. The apartment, once warm and bustling with shared routines, felt eerily quiet. Stephen's presence lingered, but I treated him as if he were a guest in my life, not a partner. I woke each morning in the spare room, sheets pulled tight around me, coffee in hand, silently observing the shift. Stephen would move around the apartment with tentative, uneasy energy, like a man navigating a place he no longer truly belonged. We exchanged words, but carefully, calculated, minimal, devoid of assumption or intimacy. I removed him from my streaming accounts, changed the Wi-Fi password, and detached the apartment key from his keyring. He protested once, then stopped. I didn't argue. I simply reminded him, you wanted boundaries. I'm respecting them. It was strange, seeing him flounder. I had imagined confrontation, tears, shouting, but the quiet, precise dismantling of our shared life was more terrifying and more effective. Then came the anniversary trip, the 10-day resort getaway we had booked together, non-refundable on my card. He came into the living room, hopeful. "Lily, can we still go? Maybe we can figure it out?" I smiled tightly, almost coldly. "We're just dating, Stephen. That's a married couple trip. You're welcome to go with a friend. I won't be joining." His expression flickered, disbelief, panic, then anger. "This is insane. We're supposed to be together." "No, Stephen," I said quietly, almost mournfully. "You said it yourself. We're just dating." The days stretched on with tense, cinematic precision. Each interaction was a reminder of his misstep and my resolve. Text messages went unanswered, unless they were logistical, scheduling move-out, clarifying belongings, or coordinating payment for things I legally owed him. He tried every tactic, pleading, passive aggression, even guilt, but I remained firm. One night he texted, "I just don't understand. Is this really necessary?" I typed back, careful and deliberate. "You made the rules. I'm following them. Please schedule your move out. We can still have coffee, like casual dates. Otherwise, our next conversation is on move out day." Stephen's frustration grew. I could sense it in the way he lingered by the kitchen, muttering under his breath, scouring the apartment for leverage that no longer existed. I, on the other hand, found a quiet power in planning. I organized my receipts, furniture ownership, even minor legal documents related to tenancy. Each small action fortified my position and my peace of mind. One evening, a message arrived from his sister Kara. Her tone was sharp, venomous. "Lily, what the hell are you doing? This is a relationship, not a war zone. Stop humiliating him. Fix this now." I paused, letting the words sit. The fury behind the message was clear. Kara had inserted herself as a manipulator, attempting to pressure me. I didn't reply immediately. Instead, I drafted a precise response. "Stephen and I are living according to the boundaries he set. This is not about humiliation. Please refrain from further interference. Move-out schedule remains unchanged." Kara's message never came back. That silence was a victory in itself. But the tension simmered. Stephen's messages grew increasingly erratic, pleading, accusing, sometimes threatening. Each one tested my resolve, but I stayed calm, measured, and deliberate. The emotional twist was subtle but unmistakable. By treating him exactly as he asked, just dating, I created a space where our relationship could no longer rely on assumptions, on entitlement, on unspoken agreements. He had been living in a world that didn't exist, and now he had to face the consequences. And yet, I couldn't deny the weight of it. Nights were long, my mind racing with memories of shared laughter, quiet mornings, and whispered secrets. This wasn't easy, but clarity came in those quiet moments. I wasn't being cruel. I was simply reclaiming the life I'd built and enforcing the rules he demanded. By the end of the 2 weeks, I could see the cracks. Stephen was flustered, confused, his confidence shaken, and I felt steady, resolved. The storm was approaching, the move-out day, and I was ready. The 30-day countdown had finally ended. Move-out day arrived like a storm I could see approaching, every detail sharpened in my mind. I had prepared carefully. My friend Ben was stationed on the couch as moral support, and an off-duty security guard leaned by the entryway, a quiet but firm presence. This wasn't paranoia, it was survival. Stephen arrived first, his eyes wide, confusion and irritation battling across his face. Behind him, Kara strode in, tense and deliberate, with an intimidating associate in tow, a man built like a refrigerator, who I would come to think of as Dino. I met their storm with calm precision. "Morning," I said, voice level. "We'll get your belongings moved out safely and quickly." Kara scoffed. "You hired a guard? Seriously, Lily? You think we're thieves?" "Just here to ensure everything leaves as scheduled," I said. Ben nodded, the guard's presence reinforcing the point. "Your list, your boxes. Let's keep this orderly." Stephen's sister muttered under her breath, exuding tension, but the intimidation failed to penetrate my composure. I had anticipated this. I had every document, every receipt, every note lined up. The first skirmish came immediately. Maya, or rather Stephen, reached for one of the main speakers of the sound system. "I'm taking this," he said. "No," I replied, voice flat. "This is mine." "Yes, we picked it out together," he pressed. "I purchased it. Receipt in my hand," I said, calm, unwavering. Dino cracked his knuckles, a silent threat. But my gaze didn't waver. The rules were clear. The sound system stayed. Chaos erupted. Boxes were flung. Doors slammed. Shouting filled the apartment. Kara, always the dramatist, moved through the living room with exaggerated caution, her eyes darting for attention. Then came the stunt I didn't expect. She feigned a slip, arms windmilling, crashing to the hardwood floor, shrieking as though the world had ended. Stephen lunged. "You pushed her!" he shouted. I froze, heart hammering, but I knew the truth. I stayed silent, letting my presence calm the moment. Ben and the guard remained statuesque. I gestured to my laptop. "Watch," I said. Motion-activated security cameras captured every detail. The screen showed Kara's slip, fake, theatrical, and entirely self-inflicted. The shock was instantaneous. The police arrived within 10 minutes. I explained clearly. She was helping move her sister's things. She slipped. No one touched her. Cop 1 raised an eyebrow at the laptop feed. Cop 2 observed the room. The footage played again. Every exaggeration, every false cry, every flailing arm, it was all exposed. "Ma'am," the officer said to Kara, voice sharp, disgusted, "filing a false police report is a criminal offense. You understand that?" Kara's face went pale. Dino had disappeared the moment sirens blared. Stephen's expression twisted between disbelief and fury. I stood quietly. The apartment was mine again. Boxes moved, furniture untouched, chaos resolved. By the time the last box had been carried out, Kara's theatrics were gone. She and Stephen left, voices low, muttering threats that sounded empty now. I locked the door behind them. Twice. Changed the locks. The apartment, once a battlefield, now felt serene. My sanctuary. And yet the victory was bittersweet. I had won legally, morally, and logistically, but emotionally, the drain of weeks of manipulation, of defending my life and space, left me hollow. I sank into my couch, Ben beside me, watching the empty apartment. We didn't speak. Words were unnecessary. The storm had passed. I had enforced boundaries. I had survived the chaos. The apartment was quiet again. Mine. For the first time in weeks, I could breathe. And as I leaned back, eyes on the ceiling, I knew the final confrontation. Stephen's attempts to manipulate, to reconnect, would come later. But for now, the battle was over. I had reclaimed my life, my home, my peace. The weeks after the move out were quiet, almost painfully so. The apartment no longer echoed with shouting, slammed doors, or the frantic footsteps of someone who thought entitlement could override boundaries. It was mine again, utterly, completely. I spent mornings on the balcony, coffee in hand, letting the sun warm my face. Stephen was gone. Kara was gone. Dino had vanished as soon as the cops arrived. And yet, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt exhausted. The fight had taken 4 years of emotional investment and compressed it into 30 days of chaos. I checked my phone rarely. No messages from him, no pleas, no angry texts. The silence was satisfying, but heavy. I knew he was somewhere, still processing, still furious, and yet powerless. That was his choice. I had given him exactly what he asked for, a just dating relationship, stripped of every privilege he assumed came with it. Then came the cat, Sparky. A small reminder of Stephen's lingering influence, or perhaps a final test of my patience. A call from the local shelter. "Is this Lily Anderson? A cat registered in your name was surrendered this morning by your ex. She claimed abandonment." My stomach dropped. My blood ran cold for a moment. But then I exhaled. Calm, steady. I explained the situation. The shelter confirmed the cat's microchip belonged to Stephen's name on record, not mine. He had attempted, even in this petty final act, to manipulate the narrative. I let the call end. Sparky would be safe. I would not be blamed for her manipulation. And for the first time, I allowed myself to smile, genuine and light, not the tight, defensive smiles of weeks past. Life returned slowly. I redecorated, moved the spare room into a proper guest space, and rearranged my living room, reclaiming the apartment as my sanctuary. My sound system, mine, legally and morally, filled the apartment with music, laughter, and quiet mornings. I allowed myself little indulgences, small moments of joy that had been overshadowed by fear and tension for too long. I reflected on what had happened. 4 years invested in a relationship that existed mostly in my imagination, a man who lived in my home but had no understanding of partnership, a sister who tried to manipulate me into guilt. And yet, I survived. I enforced my boundaries. I reclaimed my life. 2 months later, curiosity nudged me. I sent a text to Stephen, testing the waters, seeing if he truly understood what just dating had meant. Move out was rough. Coffee like casual friends? The reply came instantly, from an unknown number. You manipulative, evil. I hope you suffer. I'm suing you for everything. You ruined me. You will regret this. I blocked the number, smiled, and let it go. Life moved forward. My friends celebrated small victories with me. I went on that anniversary trip, not with Stephen, not with the chaos, but with my friend Ben. Sun, sand, cocktails, laughter. For the first time in years, I felt unburdened, light, and free. The final lesson was clear. Boundaries are not cruel. They are necessary. Enforcement may be uncomfortable, even terrifying, but the reward is clarity, freedom, and peace. I had lost 4 years to someone who, at his core, was a stranger disguised as love. But I did not lose myself. I did not lose my home. I did not lose my peace. And that, in the end, was everything. Weeks turned into months. The chaos of move-out day had faded into memory, but its lessons lingered. My apartment, once a battlefield, was now a sanctuary, a place of order, peace, and my own agency. I spent mornings journaling on the balcony, afternoons tending to little projects I had postponed, evenings sinking into music that no one else had a claim to. Each small act felt like reclaiming a piece of myself I hadn't realized I'd surrendered. Stephen had disappeared from my life entirely. The occasional text, the final venomous message, felt like distant echoes of someone who existed in another life. He had tried to dictate boundaries, to manipulate, to assert control, but I had survived it all. And more than surviving, I had learned the quiet power of living on my own terms. I thought of the cat incident, the final attempt at control, and I laughed softly. Even in pettiness, in spite, I had remained unshaken. Sparky was safe, I was safe, and the narrative he tried to force upon me had crumbled. Friends visited often, bringing warmth and normalcy back into my space. Ben teased me about the war stories, and I smiled, recounting small details with detachment, letting humor carry the weight of trauma. And yet, the biggest growth was internal. I had learned that love without respect is fragile, partnership without acknowledgement is hollow, and that sometimes the act of walking away or enforcing boundaries is not cruelty, but clarity. The anniversary trip I had taken alone with Ben became a symbolic milestone. The sun, the sand, the laughter. It wasn't just freedom from Stephen. It was a reclamation of life that had been overshadowed for years. The photographs I posted captured no bitterness, no revenge, just a quiet, radiant joy. Through all the chaos, betrayal, and confrontation, I had realized a truth that echoed in every quiet morning and every note of music filling my apartment. Life is what we choose to make of it, and boundaries are the scaffolding that holds it up. As the final rays of sunlight poured through my window one evening, I sat on the sofa, coffee in hand, Sparky curled beside me, and allowed myself a rare, full smile. The past 4 years had been a lesson, painful but invaluable, and now, finally, I could breathe. I was free, I was safe, and most importantly, I was myself.